Hey, what's up guys, Shuckle King here, bringing you my draft analysis, team builder, and battle for the gold bracket for round 2 of the TTM Summer Showdown Surge Tournament. Oh, that was a big handful to say. Yeah, so there's a lot of things going on in this video. Hopefully I'll try to keep the draft analysis and team builder pretty short, but I generally don't, so we'll see about that. But yes, I was placed in the gold bracket because I won my first game, as you guys saw last week versus Dark Devil. So I'll probably be playing slightly harder opponents, though everybody is really good valors in this tourney. And my opponent is actually Danza from the Token Minorities, which is pretty cool to play him. He was probably my top, or at least the top 3 of the available matchups that I would have wanted to play. So that's a really cool opportunity there. But thank you guys for continuing to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. I just got to 1,000 views recently, which is pretty cool. And hopefully we can improve this in the future. Hopefully by winning this tourney. Hopefully I don't disappoint y'all in the gold bracket. And I'll try to win that 25 bucks. But anyway, so we had an opportunity. We had 2 rounds of drafting, so we could change up our team with 2 picks from points 12 and under. Now, previously we had options from points 10 and under on our team, and here's what the 12 and 11 point mons were. I was planning on getting only 2 mons from either 12 or 11, or a combination of both. I wasn't planning on getting any Pokemon from 10 points and below, just because the 12 and 11 point mons are a lot better than the 10 point and under mons. So a couple things I also want to consider, things that are a lot better or harder to check with the lower point mons than other Pokemon. But my whole draft for round 1, because honestly I didn't really care if I won or lost that battle, because we were going to be playing another game regardless if we won or lost. But I was building that team around getting Snorlax. Because Snorlax is a 11 point mon actually, but I feel like it's really hard to break down, especially with such the lower point mons. As you get to the more expensive Pokemon, especially with really strong physical attackers, Snorlax will have a hard time staying awake or staying alive versus them. But it's a lower tier mons. I feel like it's going to be pretty hard to take down, especially with the team I drafted around. I had Aerodactyl just with the bulk and speed, Espeon to deter hazards and a strong special attacker. Alomomola can kind of take on knockoffs and just a lot of physical attacks that Snorlax doesn't want to take, unless it's like a curse set, I suppose. And Garbodor is there for toxic spikes. So I feel like those 4 are really nice to have with Snorlax. I was hoping to get that. Other Pokemon that are options, Alakazam for 11 points is really nice, especially with its high speed. We have all these really good. Ferrothorn is going to be really hard to take down unless you have like a fire Pokemon or a lot of hidden power fires on your team. You can mitigate that fairly well. Gengar underneath it is going to be pretty hard for teams to take down, especially because there's not a ton of great dark types, I would imagine, in the lower point tiers. I don't have a really great dark type or dark switch in, which I'll get to in a bit. Who else we got? We have Kyurem is going to be pretty hard to take down at this point. Lucario, Mienshao, fast fighting types are going to be pretty difficult to try to revenge kill. The Megas are not available yet. They're not available until round 3, unfortunately. So we're not allowed to pick those. Not quite sure why, because if they're ranked there, then their value should be that. So I don't know. I guess they want everybody to have the option of getting a Mega, so that's why they held back on that a little bit. Metagross is going to be really good at this point. Tornado's Eye seems really good with Z moves because flying switch-ins are probably going to be really limited. Alolan Muck is in a similar vein, and Suicune as a Snorlax is just very bulky Pokemon that are going to be pretty hard to take down, especially with Muck and Snorlax with the Figgy Berry sets and Suicune with Rest. It's going to be pretty tough to take those down. Nidoking, there's not going to be many switch-ins to that at this point. Shaman, Tangrowth, Celebi are all really bulky grass types, as well as Theraphorn that are going to be pretty difficult to break down. So they're some of the Pokemon I feel like are really good at this point. So I had a pretty good pick, and as you see, Beware here, he was my last pick. It was pretty cool to use it. It didn't get his scarf like I wanted it to, but I'm going to be replacing Biora with Snorlax. Snorlax is going to be really cool with Figgy Berry sets, and you can either run Curse with this set with Facade in case if you think that their response to take down Snorlax is going to be a status, and you can just run with Facade, and it's going to do a ton of damage based off a base 110 attack. And its special defense makes it really good for an Assault Vest set as well. Might be more suited towards the later rounds when there's going to be a lot of hard-hitting special attackers. Snorlax might be better fit in this role. I feel like Snorlax is something I could keep throughout the rest of the tournament as well. But I do like the Figgy Berry set with Gluttony, so it activates at 50% instead of 100%, and then you can obviously recycle to recover all that recover that HP back, recycle, and it's essentially a recovery move in that sense if you get below 50%, except if you have a knockoff user on your opponent's team that knocks off your berry, then you don't reactivate it, which is pretty unfortunate. But Snorlax, because it's a first gen normal Pokemon, basically has any coverage you want. It has fighting coverage, ground coverage, fire coverage to all hit fighting types, rock types, steel types that do pretty well against Snorlax. And there's pretty cool sets that Snorlax has. It has a ton of options, including also just running a rest, like a Chesto Berry rest set with Recycle also seems really good to prevent status from being your downfall. And Espeon also has a Heal Bell, which is certainly nice, but it's going to be pretty tough to run Heal Bell on Espeon because it's not the most bulky thing out there. So what I wanted on my team to complement Snorlax, so without Beware and losing Snorlax, I knew based on the points I had, I either had to lose Sceptile or I had to lose Camerupt plus Klinklang, because they're both 4 points, and I needed the amount of points to either get any 12 or 11 point mon that I wanted. So I knew I was going to be weak to knockoff. Elmomola can take on knockoffs, but it really doesn't want to lose leftovers or Rocky Helmet if it doesn't have to, and Snorlax obviously doesn't want to get knocked off, and depending if I get rid of Sceptile or Camerupt with Klinklang, there's going to be other Pokemon types that are a little bit stronger than others. Like Dragon would be pretty bad if I lost Klinklang. Electric is a little bit of an issue. Sceptile takes him on pretty well, as well as Camerupt. Camerupt probably takes on electric types a little bit better, but if Camerupt's my only electric type response, then it's going to be pretty easy to run Hidden Power Water and destroy Camerupt, so I really don't want that. Ice can be a little bit of an issue if I don't want to run a Thick Fat on Snorlax. Rock is also, I don't have a resist for that. So a couple things I wanted to consider. First one was Breloom. Breloom is pretty nice. It's only 11 points. I do have the option of picking a 12-point Pokemon here, but Breloom's nice just because it sits in, substitutes for Sceptile pretty well. As a somewhat electric resist, also resists dark. It punishes dark types that want to stay in. I can bring in my Breloom and I immediately threaten them out with Mach Punch, unless it's Spiritomb or something. So having that ability with Breloom to scare up dark types is really nice. Something else I consider was Togekiss, because it's really good dragon resist. So there's not a ton of dragons at this point. There's a couple more options that are popping up. Haxorus being one of them. Haxorus being one of them. Coma-O is also right there. So if I had to face a dragon, my team would be in pretty bad shape for that, especially if I lost Klinklang and Camerupt, because Klinklang can also somewhat take on dragons. So Togekiss is really nice in that role, and also gives me a secondary way, or Aerodactyl is a secondary way to deter hazard, because Espeon is there for Magic Bounce, but having a hazard removal on Togekiss is pretty nice. And another thing I considered was Lucario. It's typing. That would mean I'd have to get rid of Camerupt and Klinklang to get Lucario, basically because I want Sceptile as a somewhat of an electric deterrent. But Lucario is just so strong, and it's something I really wanted to try, both its ability to attack on the physical and special side, and with nice priority. So the Pokemon I ended up picking out of those three, I replaced Sceptile, with Breloom. Sceptile worked really well to get rid of the Hoopa last round, but now I have Breloom, and I'm honestly not sure if it's good, but people say it's good, so we'll see. you're probably going to want to run Technician with Mach Punch, because it'll hit super hard in conjunction with Bullet Seed. So types that resist like Fairy or Ghost types, that can hit those with Bullet Seed. So between Mach Punch and Bullet Seed, you basically hit everything pretty hard. Flying types can also be an issue, which you can run a Rock Tomb. I also do have Aerodactyl to take on flying types pretty well, so I'm not as concerned about that. But Mach Punch, Bullet Seed, plus Spore, it puts Spore 100% sleep move, puts your opponent in kind of a weird spot. Like if you're switching to it as like a Florges as your answer to Breloom, then Breloom can just Spore, predicting Florges as to switch in on like a Mach Punch, and then from there it can set up a Sword Stance, and nobody wants to take a Sword Stance boosted Bullet Seed or a Sword Stance boosted Mach Punch. So Breloom I feel like it's going to be pretty cool in this role, but we'll see how it does. It's not bulky at all, it doesn't really take many hits, but it has a decent knife typing that fits well on my team, being Dark, Ground, and Rock Resist. So they're all things that I wanted on this team. So I'm pretty confident in Breloom that's going to fulfill its role pretty well. Snorlax and Breloom are like 99% sure I'm going to bring him in my next match. But we'll see. Here is my team builder against Danza. Alright, here we are for my battle against Danza and his team builder. So his team from most to least threatening would be the Gardevoir, Incineroar, Sneasel, Druddigon, Tauros, Z Archeops, Lilligant, and Silvally. Gardevoir is really good just because Focus Blast plus Shadow Ball plus Psychic wrecks everything. Aerodactyl doesn't want to switch in Espeon, Shadow Ball. Almamola doesn't want to take special hits, and it could run Thunderbolt anyway. Garbodor doesn't want to take Psychic. Klinklang doesn't want to take a Focus Blast, though if he misses or if he's like not Scarfed, and Klinklang is pretty good against Gardevoir, but it can't switch in. Camerupt can't switch into 2 hits. Snorlax doesn't want to take Focus Blast, but you would probably have to rely on hitting 2, which is still a 50-50 shot. Breloom doesn't want to take on Gardevoir. So Gardevoir is going to be pretty tough for me to take down. I do have a lot of speedy stuff like Espeon, Aerodactyl, Klinklang, and that's pretty much it. And Snorlax can, to a degree, take on Gardevoir. That's going to be my biggest threat there. Incineroar plus Sneasler are also really good against my team. I do not really have the greatest Dark or Knockoff resist, and Breloom is my Knockoff resist, which is definitely not great at all, especially because Incineroar it has Fire coverage and Sneasel has Ice coverage. So I faced a team with 2 Dark types, and I did not want to face that at all. That's pretty unfortunate, but overall I think I have a pretty good matchup against him. I'll explain in a bit later. But Incineroar, Dark types are a big issue. Answers the Espeon, a Klinklang, and Intimidate's just annoying against my team. Sneasel revenges my Aerodactyl, Pursuit's traps my Espeon, even has Low Kick for Snorlax plus Klinklang. Sneasel and Incineroar both can also knock off the berry if I run that on Snorlax. Druddigon is pretty annoying, especially if it's like a Rocky Helmet Rough Skin set, because all my attackers except for Espeon and to an extent Garbodor can be special. Camerupt's obviously special too, but my main special attacker is Espeon. Aerodactyl, Snorlax, Breloom, Klinklang are all gonna get hit by the Rocky Helmet plus Rough Skin from Druddigon, unless if it's like Aerodactyl with Stone Edge. But that's gonna wear down my team a lot, and I really don't want that. I'm really afraid of a Rest, Sleep Talk, Dragon Tail set. That'd be really annoying, especially if he can get rocks up. He can also be Mold Breaker and get rocks up on my Espeon, so that's something I also have to watch out for. So I feel like those 4 are pretty much guaranteed brings. Gardevoir, Incineroar, Sneasel, and Druddigon. From there, Tauros, just a strong attacker in general. I have Garbodor, Almamola, Klinklang to all take him on pretty well. Breloom revenge kills as well. Aerodactyl outspeeds. Archeops, I don't really have a Z-Rock switch-in. Z-Fly, I would have Klinklang to do pretty well. Almamola can take the hit, but it really doesn't want to. Doesn't want to switch into it. If Archeops can get a free switch in, he's pretty safe to click the Z-Rock move, because it's even going to do a ton to Breloom, which is, I guess, my Rock resist. Lilligant, a +1 Lilligant, it's going to really hurt my team, but I do have a Snorlax, so it really can't get through that. And if I bring like a special defensive camera up, then I should also be okay against that. And Silvally, it could do anything it really wants, and it's not going to do any one thing particularly great, but it'll be, based on that typing, it's going to be pretty annoying against my team. I would really expect that he'll bring either ground or fighting. Probably even fighting I'm more leaning towards, just because that'll take on my Aerodactyl and my Breloom, because right now he doesn't have a rock switch, and that's why I feel like I have a good matchup here with my Aerodactyl plus Breloom. Do pretty well against this team, and I'll explain that when I get to them, but he doesn't really have a rock switch in, so I'm guessing Silvally is going to be ground or fighting to take that on. I don't think it's going to be steel, just because my Mach Punch from Breloom is going to do a lot to it. So that's what in general I think he's going to bring. Now on to my team, what I actually am going to bring to try to counter that. First, I have regular Aerodactyl, as you see here, with Choice Band hits harder than Mega Aerodactyl. With Unnerve, with Stone Edge, Earthquake, Pursuit, Rock Slide. He does not have a switch into Stone Edge. Twit KOs everything on his team, unless he's a resist defensive Silvally. So that's really great. Earthquake is there in case I don't want to miss. Pursuit is there if something obviously switches out, and then I can trap that. There's not really one mon that's weak to Dark on his team, but if I can catch something low that's going to be a threat later on, that'll be great. And Rock Slide is there, and for to try to guarantee to win, I need the extra damage from Rock Slide compared to Earthquake, and I don't want to risk the chance of missing with Stone Edge. So that's how Aerodactyl works. The next Pokemon, so its speed allows me to outspeed Max Speed Taurus and the Max Speed Archeops while running an Adamant Nature, which is great. If I didn't run Adamant, then Draudigon can live 2 hits, and if he could potentially have Glare, would be really annoying. And if he has leftovers, even with Choice Band Stone Edge, he has a chance to live, but it's not that great. So that's why I feel like Adamant Stone Edge Aerodactyl is going to do really well against this team. And if he does bring the Rocky Helmet Draudigon, then I'm not affected by it. We have Breloom next with Black Belt and Technician, Mach Punch, Spore, Swords Dance, Bullet Seed with max HP, max attack, and 4 in defense. Now, I didn't run speed just because I have Mach Punch, and he has an Incineroar, he has a Sneasel, he has a Tauros, he has a Lilligant, he has an Archeops. None of those things want to take a Mach Punch at all. Silvally, it depends. That's why mainly I have Bullet Seed, just because in case of Silvally is Silvally Ghost. Just because, there's no point in running Bullet Seed when he has a Gardevoir, but if he does have a Silvally Ghost, then I can hit that with Bullet Seed. Otherwise, I probably would have ran Substitute in that set, which, because Gardevoir is going to hard wall it anyway. It's going to be pretty tough for me to predict, go for Bullet Seed, predicting a Gardevoir to switch in. So that's why Bullet Seed is mainly there for a potential Ghost Silvally. But Draudigon can be a little bit of an issue, but that's why I do have Spore, so even if he is Sleep Talk, it's a little bit unpredictable to go for Sleep Talk, just because you don't know when you're going to be waking up versus rest, you're guaranteed 2 turns. So if his switch in is like Gardevoir, then I'm okay with just putting it to sleep rather than trying to risk going for a Bullet Seed and not outspeeding something. Black Belt I also have just because I want to boost that Mach Punch, but I don't really need to boost the Bullet Seed, and I don't want to take Life Orb Recoil. Next I have Kling Klang, which also has a pretty good chance to potentially sweep. Again, that Draudigon is pretty annoying. If I use Rocky Helmet with Rough Skin, then my Gear Grind is going to basically kill me faster and it's going to kill him. But I have a standard set, Shift Gear, Return, Gear Grind, Substitute. Clear Body is really nice at an Incineroar, and I guess Intimidate Taurus, I would doubt that. But both of those aren't going to get affected by Clear Body, so that's going to be great for me. And in case if he's like a Parting Shot with Silvally, then I'm not going to be affected by that either because of Clear Body. So that's going to be a great ability there. Basically max attack, max speed, with again an Adamant Nature. This will, with the speed, allows me to outspeed a Gardevoir that's trying to outspeed max speed Garbodor. It's kind of weird, but if Garbodor is a very fast set, and Gardevoir does not have a lot of speed if it has a lot of bulk, then Garbodor is going to kill with Gunk Shot. So he has to bring enough speed at least to outspeed a max speed Garbodor. So that's why I have the speed to outspeed that type of Gardevoir, because I would hit 140 and then I go to 141. But otherwise, this Chople Berry allows me to take, say, like a Sneasel, low kick, and then I can set up a Shift Gear on that. It can take a Focus Blast from Gardevoir, that's the main thing, and I can set up a Shift Gear on that. Now, I'm not going to set up a Shift Gear unless I'm pretty confident I can take out an Incineroar at +1 or a Draudigon. I don't even want to set up if a Draudigon's out, just because it's going to do over half to me with the Gear Grind damage, and you could probably Revenge Kill that pretty easily. The next Pokemon I have is Espeon, with Choice Specs, Dazzling Gleam, Psyshock, Shadow Ball, Quick Attack, with Magic Bounce to hopefully prevent Dredagon from going for rocks, because his rockets are either Dredagon or Archeops. Archeops is going to set him up pretty well against Espeon because it is a speed tie, but I'm not going to kill him, and he probably has a good chance to kill me in return. So I don't know if that's a risk I'm willing to take versus the Archeops, especially when I have a Kling Klang. Breloom to an extent, Aerodactyl Revenge kills it, and I do decide to bring the Alomomola. But otherwise, it should handle the Dredagon really well. This is my only special attacker as well, and if he's a max defensive Dredagon, then that's going to be a pretty big issue to my team. Dazzling Gleam is pretty free against his team, and Incineroar is going to take it pretty well if he's, I expect like a max HP, max attack Assault Vest set against my team does really well. But Dazzling Gleam will still do a decent amount of damage with the specs. Psyshock is there for the Lilligant. With 4 HP, I can actually live a +1 Timid Giga Drain Life Orb hit from Lilligant. In return, I do like 89 to 100 and some percent to no bulk Lilligant with Psyshock. So it's a really good chance to kill, basically guaranteed. Even if I don't kill it guaranteed, and he goes for another Giga Drain, it's not going to recover more than 10% HP, so he's going to die to a Life Orb hit. So I can take any one Timid Life Orb Giga Drain from Lilligant and do a ton of damage in return to Psyshock. And otherwise, I didn't really need the damage from Psychic. Shadow Ball is there to hit the Gardevoir really hard. Quick Attack, I mean, hopefully I don't need to use it. It could come in handy, like for something really low HP, or yeah, really low HP and maybe has a lot of speed. Like maybe like a Flame Charge Incineroar set that would outspeed me, then I can go for a Quick Attack and get the damage off in case Breloom is down. Don't expect a quick attack though. Next I have Alomomola, max HP, max defense essentially, with a little bit of speed and maybe speed creep Incineroar. That speed creeping no speed Alomomola. Wish Protect, Toxic are all very standard. Wake Up Slap actually kills the Sneasel, which is great unless he's Eviolite, then he lives. But it also does decent damage to Incineroar, and Tauros, which are Pokemon that Alomomola is going to take on pretty well. Wish Protect, pretty standard. Toxic will wear down the rest of his team. It's a little bit of a problem if Dredagon is a rest set, but that's something I'm going to have to deal with. Can also handle the Archeops pretty well. If I predicted to go for a Z-Rock move, I can hopefully protect on that. Lilligant is a pretty big issue for this Pokemon, but I have ways around it. One of them being this last Pokemon I have, which is Snorlax, with interesting EV spread. Is essentially allows me to live 2 Focus Blast after Stealth Rocks from Modest Choice Specs Gardevoir. Got something that is something that he could bring, and I want to be prepared in case he does bring it. So my HP and Special Defense allows me to live 2 Focus Blasts. I would get Figgy Berries, and I would just continuously recycle, and hopefully he doesn't crit, or hopefully does not get a Special Defense drop, or hopefully he misses. So any one of those 3 I'm pretty okay with Snorlax. And if I know if he's Choice Specs, then Espeon obviously can be an okay answer, though it's still gonna take a lot of damage from it. Recycle, obviously with the Figgy Berry to recover HP as long as possible. Return, Brick Break hits his team, at least neutrally or super effectively, unless if he's Savali Ghost. I do have Toxic for that. I also have Toxic to wear down like the Gardevoir, to wear down a Lilligant, because Lilligant can recover a lot of HP with Giga Drain, so if I don't have Toxic on it, then it can be a pretty big issue just continuously to Quiver Dance and Giga Drain and recover that HP back that I would do in return with return. So that's my team. Snorlax is probably not going to be as useful just because he has 2 knockoff Pokemon. I did not bring Garbodor. Garbodor works pretty nice just because he doesn't have a grounded poison, so I could get Toxic Spikes up and pressure his team pretty hard. A Gardevoir is an answer. Tauros, Archeops both have ground moves to kind of deter it. It would be a pretty good answer to Lilligant, but it could sleep pattern me again. A Sneasel, it would also handle that pretty well, but I only have 6 months to put on my team. Camera really didn't have a great matchup in this game. I thought that was definitely something I wasn't going to bring. Though I guess like a special defensive set would be okay versus Lilligant. But his team is offensive enough where Camera doesn't really do well. It's more geared towards teams with an electric type that Camera can handle, and he doesn't have one, so I don't have to worry about that. But that's my team. Let's get right into the game. Alright, here's my battle against Danza, coach of the Dilly Birds, or as he likes to call it, the LA Nidokings. As we can see here, he does not bring 2 of the 4 most threatening things, in my opinion, against my team, which are the Sneasel and definitely to Drudagon. Both of those, I'm really surprised didn't come. Sneasel does really well against Revenge, killing my Aerodactyl, knocks off my items from Snorlax, and so Drudagon, I have a ton of physical attackers, so Drudagon with like Rough Skin plus Rocky Helmet would have done a lot of damage to my team, especially to the Klinklang and the Breloom. So I'm really surprised he didn't bring both of those. So I feel like Aerodactyl plus Klinklang should do really well in this matchup. Again, I do want to weaken the Incineroar for my Klinklang to sweep. And Aerodactyl, I'm really expecting that the Silvally has to be some type of typing that resists rock, because otherwise he doesn't have a rock resist. And Choice Banded Adamant Stone Edge is going to do a ton of damage to anything that he wants to try to bring. So I'm going to lead with the big threat that is my Aerodactyl, and we'll see what he leads with. And it should be in pretty good shape for me. He leads with the Tauros, which I'm kind of surprised about, but then he shows Intimidate. So that's a good bring on him. I had a very low chance to kill anyway with a Banded Stone Edge, even to like normal Tauros. So I wasn't going to really take the risk anyway. I would like to see, like going for the Stone Edge to see how much damage that Aerodactyl does on the Tauros. But I don't want Tauros doing a lot of damage with Rock Slide in return to me. And Alomola is such a free switch in that I'm going to go to it right now. So I'm going to switch out and go to Alomola. And he goes for the Rock Tomb. And based on that damage, 9%, that actually shows he has basically no attack, which is interesting. He might be a max HP, max speed set, or he might be a max HP, max defensive set to take 2 Banded Stone Edges from my Aerodactyl. So I did not expect Intimidate Tauros. That's a pretty good bring on his part. Now Toxic was a pretty free play because he has no Toxic resist, unless if he's Silvally Steel or Silvally Poison, so Toxic's my play here, and he shows that he's synchronized, so he actually gets the Toxic on me, which is pretty bad. I mean, at least it's not a sleep from Lilligant, so I'm like, that's not the worst thing in the world for me, but it's pretty bad. But also showing that he's not a Trace set means that he can't keep regenerating HP off my Alomola, which is great, because Gardevoir is a pretty reliable switch into Alomola usually. Now I'm going to go into my Espeon, which is my best answer to take on Gardevoir. If he's Spec Sheddable, so be it. I have Snorlax to take that on otherwise. He goes for the sub, which is interesting because he is Toxic, and he's going to wear it down, which is could be great for my longevity of my Snorlax. So I'm going to go for the Shadow Ball and break this up, and he returns. Goes for a Shadow Ball. That shows that he's max special attack based off that damage, but I'm wearing down this Gardevoir. I'm definitely okay with that. It opens up a lot of holes for Breloom to do really well as well once the Gardevoir is weakened, and he's already a half, so if I can get it down a little bit more, then a +2 Mach Punch should be able to knock it out, which will be great for me. He switches out, not wanting to lose his Gardevoir, and Incineroar is such a safe switch in, so I just go for my Shadow Ball. It does nothing. Based on that damage, I'm like 99% sure he's max HP, max attack Assault Vest set, which is like the most standard set for Incineroar, but also does really well against my team because he doesn't really need the speed. So I'm forced to switch out. I'm going to go into Snorlax, which is probably the most expendable member at this point. Snorlax was mainly there to check the Gardevoir if he was a modest Choice Spec set, but because I know he's not that, it really is only here to handle the Lilligant, maybe to get Toxics off on like the Silvally and other things on his team, but Alomola can usually do that pretty well. So I was okay with losing my leftovers, or on my I wasn't okay with losing my leftovers on Alomola compared to losing my berry on my Snorlax, predicting him to go for a knockoff, because Alomola I kind of need to take a Z-Rock hit from the Archeops. So he goes for the U-turn, which is great for me, and based on that damage I'm kind of confirmed that he's max attack Assault Vest set, and he goes into his Archeops, so switches out and goes back into his Incineroar. Now I'm going to go right for the Toxic here. I'm kind of surprised about this play just because I felt like a Z-Rock move was really safe to go for. I mean, I guess Alomola was there and could have taken it pretty well, but I guess going for that move also shows that he's afraid of my Espeon, like switching in, so I'm pretty sure that this Archeops is his, I mean, it's his only rocker, but I'm pretty confident Archeops has Stealth Rocks on his set, just because of how he was scouting out to see if I would go into Espeon, predicting the Stealth Rocks, so otherwise Stealth Rocks would go on his side of the field, and I'm definitely okay with that because I did not bring rocks in this matchup. So Incineroar comes back in. I'm okay wearing it down a little bit with the Toxic, so that way Klinklang does a little bit better. And again, I'm going to switch out to Almamola this time, predicting him not to go for the knockoff. Predicting a U-turn there just because you would get a lot very weakened with my Snorlax on the Incineroar, and I'm okay with that just because Kling Klang does really well in this matchup once the Incineroar is weakened a lot. So I figured he would U-turn to not take more chip damage than he would have to take normally, and he has a pretty safe switching into Lilligant here. Now this is a pretty big issue for me. Snorlax takes it on, really no problem. Other than that, it's going to be an issue with Timid Life Orb set. So at this point, I'm going to actually Toxic here. Now it's kind of a weird play. If he goes for the Giga Drain, he's going to knock me out. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. But with this, if I can get a Toxic off in his Lilligant, it's going to be great. And I really don't think he's going to go for the Toxic on, or go for the Giga Drain on my Almamola. And also because I'm Toxic is also pretty good in my regard, I feel like it's a really safe opportunity for him to Quiver Dance. Now if he Quiver Dances, I would go into either my Kling Klang or my Snorlax normally, would have to be my responses to Lilligant. So he can Quiver Dance here, outspeed both of them, and then go for the Sleep Powder. And then I'm in really tough shape. If my Almamola was not Toxic as earlier on in the match, it was actually pretty safe for him to go for the Sleep Powder right here, right away. It would be a really good middle ground play. If I stay in, he gets to sleep off on me, and that's great. And even if he misses, I don't do much. If I switch out with my Almamola onto the Kling Klang or the Snorlax, he goes for the Sleep Powder, and then he has a free setup opportunity anyway. But I feel like this is a pretty safe position for him to just Toxic, or to go for a Quiver Dance, which is why I'm going to go for the Toxic. And if I lose it, then I have a really hard time handling the Tauros and the Incineroar as a switch in, besides my Snorlax. So he does Quiver Dance, and I get a Toxic off, which is really great for me. This Lilligant is going to get worn down, and my Snorlax is going to be able to take it on a lot better, because I expect him to go for the Sleep Powder eventually on my Snorlax, but with my berries I should be taking like 30-ish%, so I'm going to be taking hits for a while from this Lilligant. And at the worst, if Snorlax doesn't wake up from the Sleep Powder, then my Breloom can revenge kill in return, because it's going to take a lot of toxic damage from this Toxic here. Now I go for the Protect, just to try to stall out as many turns of him being alive as possible, get that toxic damage on him. I'm okay with taking that damage in return because of Regenerator. He goes for the Giga Drain and does 37%. That damage shows that he is modest Lilligant. So that's a threat for sure. I guess I could have had sped with my Kling Klang, so that was an interesting bring, but it works out for him for sure. So he goes for the Sleep Powder on me, and I'm still at a pretty good health. I'll be able to take 2 hits, so I'm definitely okay with this. And he understands that and switches that to his Archeops. Now, I could go into my Espeon there and predict the rocks, but again, I don't really want to lose my Espeon to this Archeops, though Espeon isn't as helpful because the Druidic Gone wasn't brought. So Espeon isn't as useful, but it's still a full HP and outspeeds everything on his team, so I would like to keep it around as long as possible. And I don't want to risk him going for a rock move and killing my Espeon at this point. So I'm going to go into my Almamola, and he goes for the Stealth Rocks. So that's annoying. I don't have a way to get rid of hazards. It only really affects my Aerodactyl. To an extent, my Kling Klang, I'll explain that later on, but it really only affects my Aerodactyl, so it's not the biggest deal in the world. He got Rocks up, and I'm going to scare him out, obviously, with any water move. But this is a pretty safe position for me to just go for Toxic, because I don't have a water move. He goes into his Lilligant, which is pretty safe, and that's alright. I don't want to lose my Almamola at this point, just because my Snorlax is still alive, and then I've been trying to sack that off for a while, honestly. So the fact that it's still alive is great for me. He goes for the Quiver Dance, which is definitely the right play. Try to get as much HP back as possible with the Snorlax, and maybe beat it 1v1 if I get bad sleep rolls. But fortunately, I actually wake up here, and I can recycle, so I can actually beat this Lilligant 1v1, which is great. If I didn't get the wake up on that turn or the next turn, I wouldn't have been able to beat it. So being able to keep this Snorlax alive is really helpful. It's a little bit unfortunate for Danza that I did get the earlier wake, but it happens. So I killed a Lilligant here. I'm at okay-ish percent HP. He brings in the Archeops. Again, I'm okay with sacking the Snorlax. It's not terribly helpful for the rest of this match. yes, it can probably take on a lot of his team with Toxic, but I also have other things that I feel like have better opportunities to just try to flat out sweep. Like my Breloom, depending on the Silvally set. Like my Aerodactyl still does really well versus his team. Should be able to 2-KO everything except maybe the Tauros. And Kling also looks really well. The Incineroar gets weakened a little bit. So that's why I'm okay just staying in here. And he's probably going to knock me out with Z-Rock. But at this point, I'm okay losing Snorlax versus Alomomola, which I was okay with stacking off Alomomola earlier to the Rock move, just because Mola still takes on the Incineroar and the Tauros better than the Snorlax does. So I'm okay with sacking it off, and I can go to my Aerodactyl. I know I'll be able to outspeed because he's not Scarfed and kill with a Stone Edge. So he has to go in his Tauros. I'm guessing that's the only thing that can handle it. And he takes a little more than half. This shows that he has at least max HP. He could also have some defense investment. I'm not entirely sure. So I'm assuming that he's EV'd to take 2 Choice Banded Adamant Stone Edges from my Aerodactyl. So I'm not going to go for this roll here. And again, Alomomola is such a safe switch into this, so I'm going to go to that every time. But this also shows that his Silvally might not be an answer to Aerodactyl. So that's something I'll have to consider later on in the match, because I still don't know what that Silvally is. It's pretty annoying to not figure that out yet. He's been hiding it pretty well. So I go to my Alomomola. It's a defensive Tauros, so it's not going to do much. That damage basically shows that he has very little, if any, attack investment in this set, which I'm definitely okay with. Again, I can either Toxic or go for the Wish here, depending on what I think is going to come in. And getting a Toxic would be nice in a Tauros, but if I can pass a Wish off to something, that'd also be super nice. So I'm going to just stall as long as possible on this Incineroar. Now, if I can get more Toxic damage on this Incineroar, I feel like Kling has a pretty good chance to just win. Because it's defensive Tauros, EQ is not going to do a lot. It's definitely not going to kill. Silvally, I don't think it's going to be able to do a whole lot. It still could. I don't know what the Silvally is. I should be able to live a hit from Archeops, and I'm guessing the Gardevoir is probably not going to be able to kill my Kling. It's certainly not going to be able to kill with Focus Blast, but I don't know if it's going to have any other tech to take on my Kling or not. So that's in really good position to win once this Incineroar is weakened a little bit. So I'm going to just protect and stay in as long as possible in this Incineroar and get a ton of damage off on it with the Toxic damage. So he's actually going to go for the knockoff at this point and get rid of my leftovers. I'm okay with this. I can Wish and stall out even more. By not going for the U-turn air, he loses 18% more. So that really puts my Kling in a position to maybe even kill with +1 return. So this is a great position for me. I can protect again and hopefully get as much Toxic damage off on his Incineroar as possible. He goes into Gardevoir, which is a fine play. I'm going to go into my Espeon and sack it off, and then hopefully go into my Kling and try to set up, because I know I can take a Focus Blast because I have the Chople Berry. He switches out and goes into Espeon, or I go into Espeon, he switches out, goes into Incineroar. Now, this shows that the Gardevoir probably doesn't have anything to hit the Kling that well. I expect that just because Kling's a pretty good switch into the Gardevoir, because it resists both his stabs. So by him making this double switch, that shows that he has really nothing to take on this Kling. So he's going to go, or that he expects that I'm going to be outspeeding him, and he doesn't want to make a really risky move. So going into Incineroar was fairly safe, and my Kling obviously cannot set up on this Incineroar at this point. So that's why I figured a Gardevoir also really doesn't have much to hit my Kling, so I'm in pretty good position to win this game once I can get a Shift Gear up. So I go to Espeon. I don't want to lose it yet, and he doesn't have Pursuit because it doesn't learn it, so I can go to Alomomola safely, again get as much Toxic damage off as possible, but he goes for the U-turn, which is a good play. Pretty safe for him to go for that too, and now he goes into Silvally Ghost. So now I know what his Silvally set is. It wasn't really designed to take on the Alomomola, it was designed as a secondary answer to my Breloom, because Gardevoir is a good answer, but in case that went down, I basically won the game with Mach Punch. So by having Silvally Ghost makes a lot of sense for sure. So my Breloom is not going to be as helpful, but I'm okay with that because I feel like my Kling should still do really well, unless he's like modest fire move Silvally. That would be able to kill me. So I still got to watch out for that. So I have my Alomomola here. I'm going to go for the the Toxic to hopefully wear down this Solvali so that way my Kling Klang can win. But he switches out, which is a good play. Again, at this point, I'm going to go into Espeon to sack it off and hopefully get a free switch into my Kling Klang, but he goes into Incineroar again. Again, a good play. This even further shows that I don't think the Gardevoir really has anything for my Kling Klang. I'm just sacking off this Espeon. I'm going to go for a Dazzling Gleam. I really have no drawback here because I can't switch in again. Almost kill it, which is great. So my Kling Klang, if I do get a Shift Gear up and he's not a max special attack Modest Solvali, then I can win the game here. He goes right into it, so I don't want to go into Solvali, assuming that he could be that max special attack fire set with Ghost. So, because that would make sense to bring because it hits the Breloom as well as the Kling Klang. So I'm going to go into my Aerodactyl. I could either pursue, predicting him to switch out to keep his Solvali as healthy as possible, or I can just go for the Stone Edge, do a lot of damage, or middle ground play. If he stays in and goes for Rock Slide, I'm guaranteed to get a head off and do a decent amount of damage. I'm going to go for the Stone Edge because he really doesn't have any switching at this point. And if I can get a lot of damage on this Solvali and figure out what a set is, I'm pretty set. I go for the Stone Edge there, do 60%, which is great. Based on that damage, I know he has probably max HP and some defensive investment on his Solvali. So he's not modest and can't kill me with a Flamethrower. I don't know if it gets Fire Blast, I don't remember. My Kling Klang is in really good position to sweep at this point, so I'm going to go right into it and set up a Shift Gear. I don't think he has anything to kill me, so I'm in pretty good shape to win this game at this point because the Incineroar was weakened, unless I miss a Shift Gear. He goes for a Roar, though, so looks like I can't sweep just yet. I gotta find something else to try to sweep on. My options are either the Tauros, the Archeops, or the Gardevoir. Now, because of that Stealth Rock damage, I'm going to be in at like 88-ish%, which means that Archeops can kill me with an Earthquake. The Tauros is not going to be able to kill me with an Earthquake, but he can paralyze me with the Body Slam, which wouldn't be great because if I get parried at some point, that gives me a further chance to lose to Hex, because if I miss a Gear Grind, I probably also lose this game. Not necessarily, but probably. Or I can set up on the Gardevoir, which is probably the most likely out of the three. Because I don't think it's going to have anything to touch me because I can live any hit with my Chople Berry with the Focus Blast. He roars me in the mouth, my Alomomola. Probably better than switching out into my Breloom, but it really didn't make too much of a difference. I was a little bit upset that I couldn't win the game right there and then. I go for the Wish and kill up the Incineroar. At this point, I want to try to get as much damage off and everything as possible, so that way my Kling Klang or my Breloom can try to win the game here. I'm going to go for a Toxic on the Tauros, because if it's like less than, I think it was 65%, then I should kill at +1 with a Gear Grind. So by going for the Toxic, I'm going to be ensuring that it's going to be less than that amount of HP, and if I can get a +1 with my Kling Klang, I should be in a really good chance to win. So I'm going to Wish Protect as much as possible to try to wear down this Tauros and the rest of his team, really. I'm going to go for the Wish here. But I'm going to just sack off the Alomomola. It didn't really make too much of a difference. I just went for the double Protect or go for the Wish. I was really sacking it off. Go for the Ice Beam. This actually might show he might not have a Fire move to hit my Kling Klang. But again, I'm going to go into Breloom here. Now, I go into Breloom and there's two options with this Breloom. One, it's going to die, which is probably going to happen. Or two, I set up the +6 with Sword Stance and win the game. The second option, it's probably not going to happen. He's going to prevent that from happening. But if I get the +4, Mach Punch has a chance to knock out the Gardevoir from where it's at. But if he has a good amount of bulk, then it's definitely not going to kill. So I would have to get the +6. Now he could go into Gardevoir and like try to save himself from maybe getting swept by Kling Klang if he has Taunt. So I would kind of expect that. But at this point, Kling Klang should be able to come here. I'm going to sack off my Breloom to this Solvali, Shift Gear. He can't roar me out, and then I should win the game. The only way that this doesn't work out is if Kling Klang misses a Gear Grind on the Archeops and gets a high roll with Earthquake. If I missed a Gear Grind on the Tauros and he paras me, and then there's chances where I could lose the game at that point. And then again, if the Gardevoir is faster than my Kling, because if he is timid Gardevoir, then I don't add speed. Timid with max speed, then I don't add speed as Gardevoir. And if he Focus Blasts me, or if he Will-O-Wisp plus Focus Blast or taunts me, then there's a chance where Kling does not win the game. But I'm hoping all those things aren't going to come into play, and Kling should be able to set up on this Silvally and win. So we'll see what happens. So I'm going to Swords Dance as he goes through the Ice Beam, does a decent amount of damage, but probably doesn't have much special attack investment, and he is going to decide to kill me here. Now I know that any fire move should not be able to kill my Kling unless he gets a crit. I should be safe to shift gear, and as long as I don't miss any moves, I should be able to win the game here. He goes into Gardevoir, which probably means he had nothing to hit my Kling because that's his first sack, or maybe he knew I was going to just shift gear. And I can go to return because a +1 return will kill Gardevoir, which is good enough because I knew he was max. Max special attack, so I knew he wasn't going to be max HP, max defense. So that's why I could go for the return, because return wouldn't have knocked out that type of set. But I was guaranteed to kill with return, so that's why I was pretty safe and I didn't want to miss. With the Tauros, now I could return, or I could substitute until. And he could Earthquake until I'm in a 100% guaranteed range where we'll return kills. Because if I Gear Grind and I miss and he goes for the Body Slam and gets the Para, then that'd be pretty bad. Though if I did sub and he goes for the Body Slam and doesn't get the Para, then I have also a lot of wiggle room there. But if I sub and he Earthquakes, then Archeops is also in a position to kill me with Earthquake. Because right now, based on my HP, Archeops has a really bad roll to kill me with Earthquake. So that's why I decided to just go for the Gear Grind. Hopefully I don't miss, and if I do miss, hopefully the Tauros does not para me with Body Slam. And then if I did miss and he doesn't para me, then I feel like I could probably sub, because at that point I'm in range of Archeops' Earthquake anyway, so I might as well sub and hope he doesn't have Earthquake. So we'll see how this plays out. Again, Intimidate does not work on Kling because it's a clear body, which is great. I can go right for the Gear Grind, and I hit and kill. Now Archeops can kill me if he gets a higher roll with Earthquake, and I miss my Gear Grind here, so hope for the best. I actually hit and killed in one hit, which is kind of crazy. And the Silvally can still win if I miss my Gear Grind, and he freezes me with Ice Beam, so I'm subbing. I'm not going to risk that. And he goes for the Ice Beam, so he probably didn't have a fire move or anything to hit my Kling with, and I can just go for the Gear Grind. Even if I missed, I should be able to kill this pretty comfortably. So that's the game. Good game, Danza. It was a lot of fun to play you. I felt like I had a pretty good position to win this game just based on my team composition. But he brought that to a 1-0, though I was trying to sweep late game with the Kling, so it made sense that it was only a 1-0. But I advanced to round 3, where I'm playing either Melantosh or John W., the winner of that game. So that'd be pretty cool to play either one of those people. Probably would prefer to play John W. just because I've only played him once over a year ago, and that was a long time ago, so I'd like to have the chance to play him again. But until next time, later guys.